How long have you? Okay, now let's just start with whatever we're just going off into. How did you come across this practice?
Um, it's just like everything around here. There's like three ways, inner, outer, and secret. So um, the outer way is that I found an article in a Dharma magazine. And so I found this place was in Portland, and I looked it up on the internet. And then I saw that there were videos, and so I ordered one. And then I heard the mantra and saw the dance, and I just kept it on repeat. So it kind of stayed just with me after I got the video. And then when I say there's an inner, outer, and secret way, it's like I'm saying it in a very mundane way, but I promise you it wasn't. It was very like sacred, and even the way I found the magazine, and the way and then I made a call to the temple to say I would like to study a workshop, and a couple months went by, and then I remember when the phone rang, and it was just so odd. I thought, what a strange ring I'm hearing, like it's a strange time of day and everything, and I don't usually think that when the phone rings. So I went down, and it was like I picked up the phone, and it was the priest of this temple, and it was just very interesting to come here the way I did.
How long ago was this?
2 years. I've been exactly 2 years studying.
Okay. So you saw it in a magazine, like it was.
So yeah, so it was in a Dharma magazine. The abbot of the temple that I went to with my daughter, he died. And so there was a magazine article about it. So I read it. And in that magazine article was this temple. So, yeah, that's how I found it.
Okay. So then you came to a practice?
So I picked up the phone, and it was Prajwal from the temple, and he was the priest telling me he got my message. I wanted to do a workshop, and I said to him, well, I just couldn't possibly do a workshop right now because I have this bizarre situation in my life. And he said, that's okay, just come by anyway. And so I came by for a tour, and he invited me to a practice, and I came. And so at the practice, he said, follow along, which he will always do, and people will do different things with that instruction. Some will stand, some will sit, some will not do anything. So I sat. I didn't stand, but I did move my arms. And it was really intense. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it. And I had never seen it in performance. And so then when I wrote Prajwal, I had actually told him that in the week since I was at the practice, I had a really serious arm injury, and I really I never had an arm injury. I'd never had an injury in my life that was really a problem. I'd never considered going to a surgeon or something to get my arm fixed. And so actually it completely cleared up, and I haven't had any problem since then, as long as I keep dancing. So that was a big draw for me, that part of it.
So that's something that you never expected, and it just happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, there's like outer, inner, and secret. So I feel like, there was other factors happening. I consider myself to be, a very aware type person. And so the truth is that the reason I noticed the temple in the magazine is because it was the same year as the earthquake in Nepal, and I had actually felt the earthquake when it happened. So I felt very drawn to being close to Nepal. So it was that drew me in.
What was the practice you were doing before you found the practice?
So I should say that before this I was studying tea, Japanese tea, in the Soto Zen tradition. So the tea studies prepared me to understand the lineage and the respect that needs to occur to participate inside of a tradition, which I do have, because I understand how rare and special this is. This is not common to come across. It's unusual. So I do feel really blessed, you know. And I don't know if I was prepared in every way, but at least I was prepared enough to understand that I'm inside of a culture, and so I am embodying the culture, and I think about it as more like keeping the culture alive out of appreciation and respect. So that's the reason I would be dancing, besides the health benefits. And also I'd like to share the health benefits with other people, because I mean, I'm sure that they are there. I know I experience them, so yeah.
Is there a particular, I guess there's like 3 different things there that you value about this practice. If you were to share it with somebody who does not know about this practice, do you pick one? Would you share all of these?
I think there's, the practice is for everyone, and that's the beauty of it. And when I really think about it, I think what gets me excited and what motivates me is I actually really want to have everybody benefit from it. Like, truly, I really think that it's something for everybody, even people who are in a wheelchair. Like, honestly, people who can't move their hands, maybe, you know, like, it's very powerful. I don't believe it's just for the body, you know, and dancing is a metaphor for life. So obviously we're going to do it, right? And if you're not dancing, are you even living? I don't know. So
Are there disabled students to this practice?
There is a lady who that's on the chair, sitting on the chair. Remember?
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah.
Have you met anybody that has disability that performs?
well, there is a woman here that has been like Prajwal's longtime student, but you know, she's modified for herself as she's aged, which is lovely. But I mean, I guess I'm thinking about it in the physicality. All the exercises and the wisdom comes from the root of wisdom, which means I find it's the most authentic wisdom, because it hasn't been changed into something else. It's not wisdom. And that's why I feel like it's for everybody. Like, you know.
I do it sometimes just in my head, or walking down the street in my head. And my body can feel the benefit, even though I'm not doing any gestures. But
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like the inner, outer, and secret. You know, in psychology, if you imagine something in your head, like basketball. I had a really good basketball team that I was on, and our coach was super great and innovative, and he had us practice in our heads, and we were like championship team. So, you know, it's the same concept, and most of these things, the wisdom, this is a wisdom lineage tradition. Prajwal is a priest who's a dancer, and the wisdom is, the dance is just like a liturgy. So the wisdom is so profound because there's the Sanskrit, and then there's the, I believe it's the ancient yogic tradition that's inside the Buddhism, in the Newa tradition. So it's like got everything in it that is powerful and wise. So, lucky us.
So it sounds like you definitely benefited from this practice quite a bit. If you were to share it with the world, and you've talked about sort of how you want this to be shared with not just people in the Western world, but maybe people in Nepal who may have missed out on this practice.
Well, I was just thinking today about healthy eating. I was talking about healthy eating and nutrition, and I realized I had this insight. I realized, wouldn't it be easier, instead of teaching everybody to eat healthy, wouldn't it be easier if people just didn't eat unhealthy to begin with? So it's kind of like that in this tradition. It's like it's not so much that everybody needs it. It's that everybody forgot about it. It's like it's always been there. So the question is, why is it not? Like, it's not something to get. It's something that you have to go back and remember, kind of thing. So it's already there, and the question is, why isn't everybody benefiting from it?
That's true.
Yeah, it is true, actually, when you think about healthy eating. It's like, why teach somebody to eat healthy when you could just say, well, don't eat unhealthy to begin with. Then you don't have to learn anything.
Well, what would you say to people who say, like, why dance? If you can do everything you need to do for the practice just by meditating, why dance?
Well, the easiest answer is because you can. Like, dance because you can. Because if you aren't dancing, why aren't you? Dancing and singing, they say, the Buddhas will do. And so with this practice, it's not just a dance practice, actually. It's actually a singing and dancing practice. So we literally are singing and dancing. It's just not everybody always wants to hear us sing, but, we do it. So, we do it in a group when we practice, but in performance, there's usually a singer, and if there's not a singer, it's a recording because we can't sing and dance. But we can, that's the practice. Singing and dancing, and so the wisdom is all there. And actually, I'm not a performer, but I know people, a lot of artists and performers, and I can see everything that they do inside this tradition. Except this tradition it's so beautiful because it actually benefits the people of the culture, so that we, as outsiders, get to benefit from a culture that exists already, and all we need to do is just sort of protect it and remind it to stay and not, give up itself to the other thing.
Yeah. This was a really interesting thing that we talked about already that I wanted to, let's at some point, I think, for a deeper conversation, is the idea that, if you notice, most of the students of this practice are Western folks, and it's not, there are not very many Nepali kids doing this practice. And if you ever questioned that, if you ever thought about that, I think that was a very interesting thing.
Yeah, and one thing I could say about that is that this dance is kind of on the cusp of something, and it's like people could put it in a folk dance category, but if you look at the yoga culture of the West, you'll see that actually this dance is the embodiment of everything in the yoga culture, and then on top of it, Buddhism, which is like such a wisdom, like the yogic tradition is wisdom, and then you have also on top of it the Buddhism, which is the deities. So you're singing and you're dancing and you're basically learning and teaching and being all at the same time. So that's like 3 ways: inner, outer, and secret.
Anything else you want to share?
And then Prajwal, he's the master. He's so great, you know. Yay, Prajwal.
Actually, that should have been the question for everybody.
Yay, Prajwal.
How do you feel, how would you rate Prajwal as a teacher, as a priest?
As a priest, super good.
Super good. Do you feel like
Let's
he's...
get our Yelp ratings out.
How would you... Because this is interesting about Prajwal. I mean, I don't know if you run into it, but how Prajwal teaches, I've always noticed that he's very... It's less formal than
Okay, I do want to speak on this actually,
Yeah.
because this is a very profound observation I made. Like, I came in here for the first time and we were in a circle, and I was educated untraditionally. My mom taught experimental school. I went to experimental school. I graduated from experimental school. I'm also a licensed teacher with the state. So I know a bit about education. And I can say that when I came in here, I felt really like I'd come home in a way where people say I was educated for a world that doesn't exist. I was raised for a world that doesn't exist. Like the world that my beautiful education, the wonderful childhood I had, where is it? Like, where is this wonderful world? You know, it doesn't really exist, like this lovely, beautiful, magical place that I believe in. And then I come in here and it's right here. And then I'm like, Prajwal, what's going on? How come you have all this, like, it's like there's 2 things. There's his tradition, there's the Nehua culture, there's him as a priest, there's him as a teacher, and then there's everything else. And everything else is just made up. What's real is this. You know, this is the lineage. This has been the same. It's the wisdom tradition. It's in teaching at the School of Education, the Western Oregon University, where I graduated top, they say. I asked the question, you know, how are we going to go out into the world and teach the way you're telling us is correct? Because they told us the correct way, and it's all the correct way. And they just kind of like, you can't really do it. You can't go out into the world and be this kind of way. But here, you can. He does everything the way that in an ideal world it would be done. But that world doesn't actually exist. Because, I don't know why, because it definitely exists. I think that it's oppression. Is like, it can happen. It's teaching it by doing. It's learning by doing and embodying. So it's actually the whole entire culture. So when we do the paramitas and patience and generosity and diligence and all of these types of things, this isn't something we're just doing as a mudra. This is something we do as a community. And so then that's how we really learn the mudra. And then we dance as a celebration. So it's all one thing. Okay, cut.